this is ruining all your favorite games. Let's see what this video has to offer.
You've had a long day. You've done everything you need to, all of your responsibilities are tended to, the dog is fed, the laundry is running, there's no dishes in the sink, and now it's finally time for you to relax. So you sit down and start up your favorite game, ready to have a great time.
I think the favorite game is League of Legends, right? That's what I heard. That's what they're gonna talk about in this video, I think. Right? That's it.
And then, 10 minutes later, you're contemplating the existence of God. No sane person could sincerely believe, after playing in this lobby, that God isn't dead. One guy is sitting in spawn AFK, another one is trying to see exactly how loudly he can eat chips into the microphone. I can't even tell if the third guy knows his
But like, eventually, I wish like League of Legends had voice chat. Like, I think this is Rainbow Six Siege, right? I wish League had voice chat, because guess what? It would make the game a lot better, in my opinion.
Is on, he doesn't give a single call out, but he screams every single time he dies. And the audacity that him and the fourth guy have to be flaming the rest of the team while their KDs are both lower than my fucking will to live. Nobody on my team has managed to come within 10 meters of hitting a shot, and I'm honestly not even sure that they're real people at this point. I swear I've heard the same line from one of them like 4 different times. They're robots. They must be. They cannot possibly be human.
They are human, but humans change a lot when they are online. And they don't really have to show their face to everyone like I do on the webcam, you know, they change a lot.
Having a game like that can really make you question why you're even playing in the first place, why the developers had to make a system that puts you in matches like this, why all games nowadays seem to have this experience built in. Does it drive player engagement? Do people buy more skins?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't really understand RNG. You know, like when you are in a game where your teammates are bad, like you've got to understand, like those teammates are the same rank as you, so like, you know, they're the same rank as you, like they're not bad. Maybe they just have a bad game, maybe, you know, they have a hard matchup and they're losing, but you never think about yourself when you are actually losing your matchup, right? You always think, oh, I'm uneven, when that even means enemies got like 5 plates. It's not called even, it means you lost lane, you know. So yeah, gotta think more about from, you know, your teammates' perspective as well.
After a game like this, is there just one really rich guy out there who gets his kicks off knowing that you, specifically, are having a horrible time? No, I'm pretty sure the majority of people can realize how outlandish this line of reasoning really is. But still, there has to be some reason that this experience exists, something that has stopped every developer from being able to make their games as fun as possible. I found myself...
I feel like the only games that are intentionally being made bad are like gacha games, you know? Like League is a cool game, you know, the system is great, you know, it has downsides, but it's mostly the players that ruin the game for most people, right? It's not the game itself is good. But when you think about like a gacha game, that game is intentionally made pay to win and bad for money. That's it, right? It's the only type of game I can think about, right? That's a game intentionally being made bad.
Pondering this question a while back. I had just had a particularly rough game of League of Legends. My top laner had inted and created a raid boss that we just weren't equipped to handle. I really just couldn't figure out how some games could be so good at creating that atmosphere where every player is working together, sharing information.
Oh, this is DRG. If you guys didn't play DRG, 10 out of 10. Like, this is the definition of enjoying playing with your team, even though they're random people. Just so cool, rock and stone.
And doing their absolute best to win, where it feels like you've known every player on your team for years, and other games just can't. Now, I want to be clear before I go any further, I'm sure some of you are beginning to conceptualize what I'm going to say with this video, that I'm going to say that everything is solo players' fault, and that if you don't have friends, you should just quit gaming because you're not allowed here. No. But please stick around, I assure you that's not the point I seek to make. I actually...
Wait. I need to rewind a little. Bro, this video is good.
I actually met quite a few of my closest friends through online gaming.
Oh my god, yes. Like, I'm exactly, like, I'm on one of those special cases where I met, like, really good friends. I made really good friends because I played League. Right? I just met, I don't remember, like years ago, 5 years ago maybe. I just played a normal game. You know, I was in high school, last year of high school, something, right? 2018, I think. And I just met a random guy in a normal game. And from him, I met like 10 other people. And now 3 or 4 of them, maybe even 5, 6, are very close friends to me. We talk, you know, every few days, not every day, especially now because Swarm got released and everything, right? It's really cool what the online world can just give you, right? And this is why I feel like gaming is so insane. If you just, no matter which country you are from, if you just know English, you can just be friends, right? And normally in real life, like in, people that you could meet in your city and so on, that's kind of the limitation. That's all you can do. That's only the people you can hang out with. But because of the internet, you can meet all kinds of people that there's no way you would have met if it weren't for video games. And I think that's so cool. That's so cool, right? People say, oh, the game is the problem. They're bad. No, they're not bad. Actually, they're so cool. Honestly, so amazing.
One good session leading to a friend request, and years later, they're still who I would describe as my favorite people. So I promise I'm not arguing that people who don't have friends don't deserve to play multiplayer games. In fact, I think solo players are one of the most important parts of multiplayer games. But at the same time, I don't think games are doing enough to help solo players become group members. The game I met my friends on, Rainbow Six Siege, is a great example of what I mean. Rainbow Six Siege is a 5 vs 5 hero shooter that...
Okay, I don't really know much about this game. Like, I don't really know anything about this game, right? I'm curious to see this. So it's 5v5 as well, okay.
takes the idea of a swap-based PvP game and ruins it. Sorry.
What?
Wrong video. Rainbow Six Siege takes its base idea and attempts to elevate it through hero shooter mechanics, adding classes and unique roles that emphasize planning and team play, and of course, because it's a shooter, there's also a focus on gunplay as well. So
that's me whenever I play a shooter game. Right? That's why I play League of Legends. I basic attack, and I don't even need to hit the target because I use attack move. So my cursor has to be, if there's an enemy champion and I attack move here, I hit the enemy champion with basic attacks with jinx from miles away, right? And that's why I'm good at League of Legends and not at shooters, because it's just way easier mechanically speaking, That's it.
This should be a prime example of what I want out of a game, right? After all, there's an emphasis on team play, so how would players end up acting against each other when everyone's goal is to win?
Yeah, what is this? Oh, this is okay. But yeah, he says people's goal should be to win. But unfortunately, in this kind of games, if somebody gets upset at another teammate, their goal becomes to lose or make that teammate's life worse rather than actually winning the game. And that's so sad when that happens. Honestly, I don't get it. I don't even play the game then.
So that did not work. But why? Logic tells us that if a game focuses on teamwork and everyone's goal is to win, those people should try their best to work together.
Yes.
And yet, for some reason, players seem to avoid teamwork like the plague. The first step in understanding this requires us to recontextualize that scenario from earlier. See,
my guess is number one is why this is happening. It's because of ego and not wanting to admit the mistakes they are making, right? People don't realize that we are humans and making mistakes is natural. It's a learning process. It's good to make mistakes because if you don't make mistakes, it means you're perfect. But guess what? Nobody's perfect. I mean, I guess God is perfect, apparently. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not even him. But yeah, making mistakes, admitting your mistakes is okay because then you can just improve upon them. But no, people don't want other people to know they actually made a mistake. They don't want to be wrong. Right? They don't want to be wrong. Oh my god, me wrong? No. So if they believe something, it's very hard for them to change their mind because then they would admit they're wrong. And who the hell does that? Right? Who the hell does? They think it's the worst thing ever if you admit being wrong. But I actually respect people that admit they're wrong. That's what people don't understand. Admitting you're wrong about something is a big W. It's insane if you can do that. It's crazy, right?
things maybe weren't as cut and dry as I made them out to be. That first guy, it turns out, was AFK because he was having connection issues, but the rest of us refused to surrender because we were up 2-1. The second guy is eating chips into his mic, yes, but he doesn't seem to know that we can hear it, and he's still trying his best to play the game. The third guy has been blaming us a lot, but he's also been calling himself out every time he dies. It seems more like he's just hard on everyone, including himself. And the fourth guy, he is being a dick, but he's had 4 games back-to-back like this where his teammates have made it absolutely impossible for him to have fun. Isn't that an interesting sentiment? My team ruined the game for me.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Like, that's just, it is what it is.
I was doing just
Happens.
fine, having a great time, until those other guys came along. This mindset is really prevalent in competitive team games.
I feel like if you have this mindset, your team is always the problem, you shouldn't play a competitive game. You should play a single player game. Right? Or just 1v1 games. Like, you shouldn't play, in a game where you are queued up with random people around the world, like, it's not for you, right? Just be honest, right? If you go into a competitive game, you need to expect that you're gonna have teammates that ruin your games. You need to expect that, right? You need to accept it. This is what it is.
From time to time, I'm sure you've fallen into this way of thinking. I know I have. It goes to show most people queue into a game and they don't see 5v5 or 6v6, they see themselves versus everyone else in that lobby.
I guess this is the 1v9 mentality, right? 1v9, yeah. Guess what? You cannot 1v9 in League of Legends. That will not happen.
Like their teammates are obstacles to be overcome rather than people to work with. So, how does an idea like this come about? What things inside the game cause something like this to be so prevalent? Sure, there are social factors and human behaviors that contribute to this attitude. It's easier to shift the blame onto others rather than taking the ego hit of losing for one, but people's competitive drive should still lead them to developing proper team play. Well,
yeah, that's so true. Like, if you look at this, the people that are flaming, the most vocal players in the team, the most toxic players in your team, they are the ones that are actually the problem, and there is the most of the reason you are losing the game. Like, it's always true. You always look like, when's the last time you saw like a super fed teammate that's actually playing well that flames? It doesn't really happen. Why? Because the good players are actually busy playing the game and actually trying to win. The bad players are busy typing instead of actually playing the game. Even if they have a lead, they kind of throw it away because they're just focused on their teammates and so on, right? It's not good.
what if I were to tell you that in game developers' quests to make their games more solo-friendly, they've managed to actively discourage a team-based mindset? I don't want to downplay how difficult it is to actually get players to work together. People are weird, and players often will avoid working together if it isn't completely mandatory to advance their goals. I've done my fair share of solo play in Destiny and other MMOs. I get it, you don't want to go out of your way to get 4 random people together who you probably won't even like to do some in-game event, so as a solo, that event isn't for you, and if you don't need the gear and it isn't mandatory, you'll just skip it. But this doesn't mean there's no way to convert solo players into functioning members of larger groups. You might notice this is an idea I'm coming back to quite a bit. There's a good reason for that. So players inherently want to avoid team scenarios in games where they can play solo. But why do players not engage with their team in a game where the whole point is that they aren't solo? Some would argue that social anxiety plays a big role. People don't want to step out of their comfort.
I don't think social anxiety is really a problem for most players. You know why? It's because you are not even, you don't even need to show your face. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows your voice even because there's no voice chat, right? I just feel like people, would tolerate other players for like 30 minutes in a game, If you don't like your teammate, just tolerate them for the rest of the game and then never meet them again. And that's all you have to do, right? Why do you care? It's not that hard, in my opinion, right? To just play with teammates, random teammates, and tolerate them for a bit and try to work together, right?
comfort zone, especially when it leaves the risk of ridicule. Getting flamed feels bad. But I would argue that even though games like to focus on this aspect as if it's the problem, it's instead a symptom of core failures in game design and promotion that have influenced player behavior in a negative direction. With Rainbow Six Siege and shooters in general, this negative edge of player behavior comes from an inbuilt, skewed sense of individualism, the idea that you alone can win the round, but only your whole team can lose the round. Everyone knows the feeling of coming out of a 1v5 situation the victor, and in contrast, we also all know the feeling of being put into that 1v5 situation in the first place.
I feel like in this like 1v9, 1v5 situations, whatever, right? You also gotta understand that in a team game, there's only so much you can do, right? It's like you're 25% of your team, and maybe you can take that to 25%, 30% if you're actually a really good player, right? But that's it. Like you cannot be 100% of your team. Like that's just not possible, right? Unless you're a challenger player playing in an iron game, of course, whatever, right? But who cares about that? Like we're talking about like matchmaking in solo queue where nobody's smurfing, just on their main accounts, right? You cannot do anything alone. You gotta understand that if all your teammates, all 4 of your teammates, you know, they're having a bad game, they're losing their lanes, right? You're playing top lane, your bot lane loses, your jungle gets invaded, dies, in your mid lane he cannot farm because his melee is raged, right? For example. You feel like you just lose by default, right? Sure, it might be, but if you just keep playing and try your best, you never know, you might turn the game around. But also if you can't, you need to accept it, that's just how the game works, you know, it is what it is.
Your whole team rushing into the building and dying, leaving you holding the bag before you could get a chance to influence the round. Now, these things are inherent to a team game like this, and they also aren't negative traits by nature. Clutch can be a great morale boost. Losing a round quickly and decisively can make your team regroup and give more thought to how you plan things. Few things feel better than banding together and coming back from the bleeding edge of defeat, but few things feel worse than those moments where you just don't seem to be able to play the game, when you kill 4 and watch your teammates get wiped by the enemy bottom frag, when you're stuck trying to clutch every round because your team is more focused on running to their deaths than planting the diffuser. But those failures weren't your failures, they were your team's failures. You didn't run in and die, your team did, and nobody refragged them, so now you're staring down 5 defenders and a minute and a half on the clock. What shit teammates you have. See how easy it is to slip into this mindset? It's like the game prepares a nice warm coat for you to slip into the moment you get cold. It makes it much harder to think about the fact that you could have been the one refragging, that your team ran in and died because they had no plan, a plan that you could have put forward, and that sometimes people just lose gunfights, and it is.
You know, this is talking about like Rainbow Six Siege. I don't know much about the game, but it's like you also gotta understand that sometimes you and your teammates, because you're random people on the internet, right? Forced in a team, you're not gonna have the same idea and the same plan. So it's up to you to adapt to your teammates, because your teammates, chances are they will not adapt to you, right? Let's say you play an ADC, you're strong, but teammates don't play around you. Why is that? Well, they don't really know. They don't understand those concepts, maybe, right? And it's not like you can tell them to play around you. They won't really do it anyway. Like, they're not used to it. They don't know how to play that way. So it's up to you to adapt. You know, let's say you have a teammate that doesn't want a group. How about you go to all 4 of you, go towards that teammate, and now we are forced to be together, right? That's just a weird example, you know? Yeah, you gotta adapt, right? That's what it is.
Isn't really a good enough basis to deem someone incompetent. It's harder to treat your teammates like people than it is to see them as obstacles, enemies of your progress. And while those who champion self-improvement...
Well, sometimes I see my teammates as like objects, you know, as meat to us, you know? If enemies have like a Nautilus, I'll just hide behind my feeding mid laner, he gets hooked, and that's a good engage for us. They waste cooldowns on him, then I can kill enemy. Good, you know? No matter what, you can use your teammates for something productive, even if they're trying to lose intentionally, for example.
Detest the my team holds me back mindset, it's prevalent nonetheless. But this isn't what the game does to encourage this behavior. This is just the natural skew that games like this have towards this behavior. After all, there's no way the devs would design the game in a way that makes you hate your teammates more. That would be really dumb. So here's how they did that.
Okay.
There's multiple things in Rainbow Six Siege and generally standardized between competitive shooters that encourage you to hate your teammates and direct negative emotions towards them.
Things encourage you to be negative? How?
And then allow that practice to become routine. The first of those is the spectate function.
Ooh. Ooh, spectate. Oh, so you whiff that. Ooh, it's like you die in League, and then you have nothing to do, you buy your items, and then you watch your teammates, and then you see your teammate missing a skill shot, then you spam ping them. Oh my god, that's true. Rainbow Six, you can team kill. Oh my god, I wish Riot made a game mode once. Just make a game mode where you can kill your teammates. Like, I wanna see chaos on the Rift. I want to see Riot allowing us to embrace our inner selves and chaos. That would be so freaking funny for a game mode. You know, non-competitive, just for fun. I would love to see that.
The spectate function itself is a way for players to remain engaged with the round after their death. It is generally standard for competitive shooters to allow post-death communication. The spectate function is necessary, in my opinion. People likely would be far less involved in a round if they just had to sit and wait until it was over. But
yeah, of course. Imagine you play League, you die, and now your screen is nocturnal ulted. Every time you die, nocturnal ult, and you can't see anything. Yeah, I would be there like 30 second death timer. You know, I would take my phone and just scroll TikTok. You know? Right? Rather, you just watch the map, see where you need to go when you respawn, see what teammates are doing, objectives, and so on. Right? Have time to think about what's happening next. You know, it's good.
There are some unforeseen consequences with this implementation because spectating comes immediately after your death. When you die in any competitive game, there will be a level of negativity associated with that. You no longer get to participate in the round. Yeah. You disappointed yourself by losing. Maybe you're angry at the game. This is often heightened by the feeling of adrenaline from the gunfight or fight itself, amplifying that anger and sadness. And immediately after coming off of those emotions, where is your focus directed? Right here. It's literally all of your screen. Now, Siege is actually one of the better games at mitigating this because of its design revolving around post-death play. The devs didn't want players to simply be out of the game, so they let players watch any cameras or drones that haven't been destroyed, allowing them to transmit valuable intel to their team. So the spectate function is a bit rough, but it's not like it can't be fixed. Do
you have like cameras in that game? You can place around the map and give you info. That's actually pretty cool, huh? I guess it's like watching wards in League, you know? When you die, you just watch wards and then ping teammates whenever you see an enemy to help them out, right? Let's say you die in bot lane early game, but while you're waiting for a respawn, you see enemy jungler top about to gank, so you spam ping your top laner, right? And you give them valuable information to back off, right? Actually, there's so many similar things in Rainbow Six compared to League, right? There's so many things you can compare, right? It's crazy.
First idea off the top of my head would be to give players a more general spectate camera, focused on the map rather than an individual player's gameplay. Watching your teammates lose gunfights still wouldn't feel good, but it's easier to recover from emotionally and avoid tilt when you don't see them with a 30-round mag beforehand. And this also allows players to move at their own pace, coming down from the emotions of their death while still having the general information to remain engaged with the match. Basically, it gives a good way for players to take a moment without immediately being presented with someone to be angry at. But unfortunately, spectate isn't the only problem, and
oh yeah, that's for sure more problems, yeah.
The other problem is a bit harder to just get rid of. Let's talk about scoreboards.
Ooh, scoreboards! No, my teammate is 0-6, he's probably useless. Meanwhile, your 0-6 teammate is pushing bot while Baron is up, and all you have to do is stall enemies at Baron, and then your 0-6 top laner pushes bot and gets the inhibitor. But you don't look at that, you only look at the 0-6. You know? Ooh, scoreboards are so bad. Yeah, I agree. I agree, scoreboards are really bad. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Scoreboards are almost a sacred tradition at this point. A full breakdown of how good or bad any player is doing in a given match. The immediate problem with this should be obvious. You're losing and you open the scoreboard to see your bottom frag is 0 and 4. If the game was giving you a warm coat before, now it's holding up your teammate and asking you to punch them. It doesn't help that most players look at the scoreboard exclusively to see who deserves to be praised or berated. Some scoreboards try to mitigate this by adding assists, a metric that shows how many players you've damaged that were then killed by a teammate, but players weigh assists differently, usually in favor of the...
Yeah, I feel like people only look at assists... yeah, never. Nah. I mean, maybe the support or jungler, but even then, like...
themselves. My 3 kills are better than your 5 assists, even though I stole 2 of those kills from you. So the scoreboard is generally used as a tool for toxicity and is not strictly necessary for the game. Why not remove it? Well, for one, this might just exacerbate the problem. Think about it. If Timmy is playing really bad and he wants to take it out on his team, he might stop himself when he goes to the scoreboard and sees that he is, in fact, dog shit. But if Timmy has no scoreboard in sight, he's free to flame until the cows come home. A second point again.
I don't know about that. I feel like scoreboard... Like, why do we need scoreboards? I mean, why does it matter how many kills we have and how many assists we have and how many deaths we have, right? Because, like, that information... gives you nothing, like it's not useful information. If an enemy is 10-0, all it does, it discourages you, right? Because realistically speaking, what you need to look at is the items they have, right? How many items they have, right? If you have 2 items, your teammates all can have 2 items, and the enemy top laner has 3 items. Yeah, you can tell they are a bit strong now, so you need to play maybe a bit differently, right? You might not want to risk a 2v1, maybe you want to 4v1 them, for example, right? To just guarantee a kill. Right? Compared to if you see them with like 1.5 items, 2v1 is easy enough, you can just do a herald in the mid or whatever, don't waste your time, right? Yeah, I don't see a reason why scoreboards, you know, like, why they show kills and deaths and assists, like, they don't give you any information. Instead, they should replace this with gold, right? They should replace this with gold, because this will show you a lot more, because right now in the current system, in League, especially in League, you could be 0-0 in lane, but actually destroy the enemy bot turret and take all 5 plates. So you are up like a couple thousand gold maybe. But the scoreboard, like the 0-0, doesn't show anything, you know? But instead they show the gold. You would be like, this guy's 1,000 gold up above everyone else. That's crazy, right? Even though it's 0-0. That would provide more information, right? Because people always look at they praise the scoreboard. This guy is 6-0. That's why he killed me, right? They always blame that, right? I would win if enemies were not 6-0, you know? And that would be really cool. Like, I just wish they removed it and just add gold, you know? Like, honestly, you know? If they did that, maybe people would respect Baus more, true.
Against removing the scoreboard is the player backlash that would very likely come from it.
Right, because then your 0-6 top laner I talked about would actually have the same amount of gold as you have. So then, yeah, it wouldn't matter, right? It's okay.
Even though most people don't really gain much value from the scoreboard, it's a part of the culture and a part of the game. And players absolutely hate it when companies babyfy things to try and protect players' emotions. The optics on this change, even if the devs were completely transparent with the reasoning, would likely be that the change was only made to protect bad players' feelings, which to an extent is true.
You could abuse it in a way of, oh, this guy has 6k gold, it's force a fight because he didn't spend money. Yeah, that's a fair point, right? If you could see the enemy gold, real time, let's say they have 4,000 gold, but only one item which costs 2.5k, it means they have the 1.5k gold unspent, right? But to prevent that, you could just show enemy gold that they spent, instead of the gold they actually have. Fair enough? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe this is, I don't know. I'm not a game designer. Maybe, I don't know.
True. The colloquial bad player is often treated like a second-class citizen in competitive gaming, but that's not the point here. So, we can't remove the scoreboard. Is there any way that we can modify it to make it a more positive force? Well, yes and no. Almost any modification we would make to the scoreboard will either be too insignificant to change anything, or too significant, drawing player ire. Developers creating systems like this are stuck between a rock and a hard place. By nature, competitive games are about being good. You want to be better than the enemy team, you want to be better than your teammates, and you want to be better than yourself.
Yeah, you want to keep improving, right? And if you're better than your teammates and enemies, it means you're improving, you're better than everybody else. It means you should be a higher rank. Fair point, yeah.
This can often result in cultures where having good numbers is the only thing players deem important. Removing those metrics just gives you no way to quantify anything, hard as that may already be because of SBMM, but I digress. I don't
think removing the scoreboard would remove the ability for you to self-assess if you did good or not in a game. I don't think that's the case.
Best solution I could come up with, which would unfortunately still draw player ire, is to hide your teammates' deaths until the end of the game, only showing their kills and assists. But this is still generally a lackluster solution. It could shift the attitude of players in a more introspective direction, but it definitely will have players up in arms upon implementation. Current systems have implementations like points or objective score, but they're often treated as jokes on account of having to measure up to the all-powerful metric of KD. At the very least, though, that's it. There's no other feature that encourages players to blame each other for team-wide or personal shortcomings. We've gotten the features that point anger at the wrong places, and the feature that quantifies your abilities with a number out of the way.
Oh my god! What the hell, that's loud.
Yep, it couldn't be a video.
Oh my god, he blasted my ears with that. He used to learn how to balance his audio better in his videos. Oh my god. Oh my.
Video about toxicity and solo play without talking about ranked. So, ranked. It seems.
Ooh, plus 23, minus 21. Ooh, Riot has been through. League has been through this a lot. Ooh.
As of recent, game companies have been treating ranked like a player retention cheat code. Just choose an elo system, drag and drop some badges, and there you go. But in reality, it's not quite that simple, and
in reality, it's actually simple. The rank you are and everything else doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is MMR. What is MMR? It's a number. That's your rank. It's the MMR. You know, that's what matters. If your LP gains are like this, it means your MMR is lower than your actual division you're in. So that makes the division you're in completely worthless. It doesn't show anything. Yeah. Unless you stop playing then, and that's it. Right? But then you're stuck. You know, that was the point.
In fact, a lot of companies have failed to realize how much of a double-edged sword ranked really is. A ranked game mode can be a good way to boost player retention, but without proper attention to its implementation, ranked can actually bring more problems than benefits. There are a few major issues that can arise from implementing a ranked system. I'll mention the most notable here, and I might go more in depth another time. The first big issue comes if the game isn't well balanced, or more specifically, if the optimal way to play is not fun or does not line up with player expectations. The knock-on effects here are self-explanatory. If the game played to win isn't fun and players manage to optimize their enjoyment out of the game, people will stop playing.
I think League is going towards that more and more, right? Because everybody's starting to become so good at the game, everybody's hyper-optimizing everything. So it's like if you're a newer player, man, it's so hard to get into this game. Or it's like if I want to climb to higher ranks, I actually have to put in so much effort and I cannot do this casually. I have to think about all this stuff and optimize everything. And you know, in League, it's, in my opinion, like, if you want to get like Master, maximum, Diamond Master, right? You can do that without any optimization. You just simplify the game. That's why, you know, when I coach people, for example, I just teach them to simplify everything. Because that's all you need to get mastery. You just have solid concepts, solid habits, and that's it, right? But if you're like GM Challenger, man, you've gotta optimize the game like crazy. Or you just can't do it. It's insane, right? It just ruins the fun for a lot of people, you know? You have to really like competing for you to willingly do that, you know?
The next major problem is that ranked queue amplifies toxicity. Now, people don't just feel bad because they're losing, they have a reason to be mad at you for underperforming, because their elo is on the line. As unreasonable as it is to get mad at somebody over imaginary points in a fictional game, it still provides justification for people who may otherwise keep quiet. The third big issue is that when a game is balanced around competitive play, it can often remove what players found fun in the first place for the sake of fairness. See Zophia's Withstand.
Positive to review. Well, first I want to say about like competitive stuff and like balancing things out, removing the fun from games, right? Let's take a look at this season in League of Legends, season 14. They introduced the ability to summon the Rift Herald and ride the Rift Herald. You know? That feature by itself sounds really fun. It's really cool. But more often than not, it leads to people inting with the Herald. For example, if you play Jinx, you place the chompers behind the Herald and you just catch the enemy and they just die because of it, right? Or, what happens to me a lot, I just right-clicked my Herald by mistake because I'm trying to farm the minions, and the Herald is there. I click it by mistake because the hitbox is too large in my opinion, right? And when you click it, you instantly go inside it. There's no confirmation button or whatever, right? And that just leads to frustration because I'm trying to win, I'm trying to optimize everything, but then there's this feature in the game that's inting me. You know, it's just for fun feature for no reason when it comes to, you know, a competitive game mode. But at the same time, you know, it's like we all should play the same game, no matter what we queue up for. Normal, solo queue, flags, doesn't matter. Pro play even. We all play the same game, right? That's the cool idea about it. You know, they're not gonna make a different game for normal compared to solo queue, right? In solo queue, they're not gonna remove the ability to move the Herald and keep it in normal games because that doesn't make sense. It's kind of weird, right? So it is what it is, I guess.
Even if balancing doesn't remove the things that players find fun initially, balancing can still shift the way a game is played over time, which can alienate old players, stifle creativity, and stale metagames. This forces the developers to inject interest back into their game with superficial additions that often result in power creep. Rainbow Six Siege's balancing having been so nerf-heavy over the years, and the power creep of new operators being evident, excluding Grim, makes it a great example of balancing done wrong. Now, you may have noticed that the title of this video is still largely yet to come into focus. After all, none of these issues
This is ring over for video games. Yeah, true.
issues have been exclusive to or affected by designing around solo play. While this is in part true, the whispers of an environment created to be more friendly to solo players are indeed the things I've mentioned. Shockwaves, ripples through the water from a stone cast by an unknowing child who could not realize the damage he would later do when that ripple became a tsunami. I've talked a lot about toxicity and what causes it, the subtle nudges in competitive games that lead you to hate your teammates more and more every time. But what I haven't talked about is the attempted solutions that have done more harm than good, things that were supposed to bring the player base together, but instead drove them further apart.
Okay, I can think of a couple examples already, right? Game is toxic, what do? I did plenty of those things, and I think a few of them kind of failed, right? First of all, okay, look there in chat, that pings, right? You limit the amount of pings to 6, you limit the amount of missing pings to 3, because people are used to spam pinging missing ping on somebody to flame them, right? Meanwhile, I'm never abusing pings, I never spamming people, but I'm just limited in 6 pings, so I just cannot provide more information to my teammates because of it, right? So it's like it's basically, you remember when COVID was a thing, right? The government made you wear masks, which is annoying, right? But oh well, mask, okay, we have to, right? It makes sense. Okay, we do it. Cool, no problem, right? It removes the virus and everything. Okay, good. But then you go to a store, and then in the store, it's like between you and the cashier, there's like a big ass like glass or whatever window, and you have to slide the money in and whatever through like a small opening below, right? Yeah, that's for protection and everything, but man, it's annoying. It's so annoying, man. I just there's a balance between, you know, protecting the game from toxicity, right, and then protecting or like not ruin the experience of actually positive players, you know. Pings did do that in League, and also in Champ Select you can see your allies' names, right? It's just, you know, those kind of ruin the fun in a way, you know? Yeah, those are not that extreme, but you never know what else they're going to implement that ruin the fun for normal players, right? Because there's that balance that has to be kept, you know?
Computers are a decent example of this, which is why they are what I've used so far. Spectate, for one, was a feature for all players, yes, but it was likely seen to be helpful to solo players, keeping them and their teammates more engaged and allowing them to build rapport and come together. However, the failure to implement these systems whilst making room for players' emotions has resulted in a system that is far more to the detriment of solo players than anyone else. Groups are not often on the receiving end of strong amounts of flame because of their number. They have the ability to control the lobby and the narrative. In contrast, a player queuing solo has the chance to find themselves surrounded by 4 other players, group or not, who have decided they are the punching bag. And that player is then given the choice between accepting verbal abuse and trying to win the game, muting their teammates and no longer receiving any information, or lashing out in return, causing a situation from which nobody benefits.
Yeah, true. Like when a teammate spam pings you, right? you decide you have the option to mute, but that way you block their information, or to unmute. But then it's like half the time they ping you, it's spam pinging for no reason, right? But in my opinion, if somebody abuses pings and spam pings someone else, it's 99% of the times it's safe to mute that person. They are not going to provide you any more useful information. They are done with the game. Don't unmute them. Mute them forever. They will never provide information. They're just gonna keep abusing pings. So don't feel bad about muting them, right? It's just, it is what it is.
It is a lose-lose scenario. Many games have tried to implement systems to offset toxicity, rewarding good behavior and punishing the bad, but for as much of a dent as these systems are able to make in the problem, they also have the effect of making flame more adversely extreme under...
And I also want to add something here, because that's kind of important in my opinion, right? In my opinion, Riot is only treating the symptoms of toxicity, right? If people abuse pings, limit the pings. And many other examples that we talked about before, right? But how about instead, we kind of get rid of these people? You know? Right? It's like, how about we punish them more after they misbehave in a game? Let them spam ping you forever. Let them run it down one game, right? But after it happens once, just permaban them. Permaban, IP ban, hardware ban, I don't care. Fuck them. Like, who cares? I don't need them in my game. Right? But instead, you limit players from actually committing the crime in the first place by limiting pings and so on. And then it's like, they misbehave, but not all the way. And guess what? They queue up next game, they do the same, queue up next game, do the same. And there's going to be so many games that are ruined because of it. You know? There's so many games that are ruined. Let's take an example of a guy that locks in Nunu mid, Ghost Cleanse, and says he's gonna run it down in a lobby, right? Then it's like a player has to choose between, you know, getting -5, -20, dodging the game and waiting in queue and so on, or just playing a game they're automatically gonna lose, right? We've all been through this, for sure, right? And guess what? Because that player doesn't get punished right away, let's say you play the game, you decide to not dodge, nobody dodges, you play the game out, you all report Nunu, and Nunu, guess what, queues up another game. It's just so bad, isn't it? It's just so horrible. Instead, we would have to ban that player immediately. We need to do something to ban that player immediately to prevent him from ruining other games. And let's not get started, because imagine how many games he makes, like how many people he makes to dodge, like how many games he manages to dodge, basically, right? Because most people will take the -5 over losing the game because they know that player will not get banned immediately anyway. So their effort is wasted, right? So for that Nuno guy to play a game, he needs to go through like 10 champ selects in order to get into a game. Then he gets reported and does this 10 more times, and then he gets banned. But in the meantime, he ruins 100 lobbies. Instead of players not feeling pressure to dodge, because they know if they play with him, they report, he gets permabanned instantly. He only ruins one game, not 10, you know? We need systems like this in place in League, in my opinion. Harsh punishments for people that misbehave. That's what we need.
And if I'm getting banned for this, I'm saying everything sort of mentality. And because of the profit motives of these developers, the rewards for good behavior are often not enough to stop players from having emotional outbursts where they are already prone. In fact, there is one game that encapsulates everything I've mentioned so far in this video. Literally every single mistake. The game I'm talking about, of course, is the game with the most toxic community, a title it has consistently tried and failed to shake.
League of Legends.
The one, the only, toxic cesspit.
League of Legends.
League of Legends.
Yes, yes. This is the game, yes! But this is loud. This music is loud.
I mentioned League before, and I've been foreshadowing this development up until this point. When I say League has made every single mistake I've mentioned so far, I mean it. And fun fact, there's even more than that. When people say League is a game sent from hell, the part they leave out is that Satan was the lead developer. Trust me, it's so much worse than you thought. So, let's get started.
Alright, let's go. I'm ready.
League of Legends is a 5v5 MOBA, multiplayer online battle arena. The game revolves around your team
More like a 5v5 zoo, but let's continue.
attempting to destroy the enemy team's nexus. Players can achieve this by destroying enough towers in one of the 3 lanes to open up the enemy nexus to damage, and then dealing enough damage to make it explode. There are 3 lanes and 5 roles. Top, usually melee-focused players who occupy the longest
Melee focused. Right now, it's 2024, July 25th. The current meta is every game has at least 4 ADCs. And sometimes even more. So you have an ADC top, an ADC mid, ADC bot. You know? Yeah, unlucky. And the meta changes in weird ways.
lane. Mid, mages and immobile champions with good damage and potential
Mages like Lucian, for example.
roam to the other lanes.
Orchid
ADC
Tristana.
or AD carry, the only role with carry in the name that is also inexplicably the hardest role to carry with.
I don't know, maybe. Or I would say the easiest to punish role, because one mistake in that kind of that, but you can carry.
Good job, Riot. Support, the role that duos with the ADC and also nearly entirely decides the outcome of the ADC's laning phase. Good job again, Riot.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's... I think he's saying this because he showed Lucian gameplay both, so he's probably an ADC player, right? I mean, yeah, in a way, yeah, he's got a point. Like, you know, I like the ADC role as an ADC player myself. I like this role, but yeah, it could get over. You could be a bit over reliant on your teammates sometimes. It is what it is, because if the enemies have assassins, you know, you're not gonna leave. So instead, you're supposed to die next to your teammates, so they kill the assassin at least, right? That's what the role becomes sometimes. Yeah, it is what it is, you know.
And jungle. We will get to that one later.
And then jungle is the best role.
There is more going on, but for our
gets
purposes, that's about the
played
amount
the
that
most.
you need to know. So, I said League makes every single mistake I've mentioned previously and more. That's
Yes.
a bold claim, but since I've set the stage, it's fairly simple to prove it. Exhibit A is something that is not so much a conscious decision as it is the result of the genre. MOBAs as a genre make it incredibly easy to focus on your teammates' mistakes and blame things on your teammates in general. I'll go more in depth when I discuss my biggest problem with League of Legends, but for now, just know that people really don't like to take responsibility for losses in League more so than any other game.
No, they
so,
don't.
that's our spectator cam, so to speak. The next big problem is a scoreboard, which is definitely present. And not only is the scoreboard present, it's worse than rainbows.
You know why it's worse? Because every 5th patch, the scoreboard breaks. They can't even order. They can't even put the champions in the right role. You know, it's like top laner is on the top, support is on the bottom. Every 5th patch, it breaks and it just randomize everything. You know, that's one reason why it's not even good. And then sometimes you have 100 CS. You look at top right, have 100 CS. You look at the scoreboard, have 103 somehow. I don't know.
A trend that will become very common going forwards. The problems that are all present with Rainbow's scoreboard are here. The game tracks your level, CS, creep score, you get it for killing minions that push down lanes, and the minions give you gold. Higher is better unless you're a support. And KDA. Not only can you be ridiculed for what is on the scoreboard, but what is otherwise an important statistic is notably absent. Vision score.
Ooh, vision score. Only supports care about this, by the way.
Which you get for placing wards, a trinket that allows you to see an area even when nobody is present.
I feel like some supports, some support, we have to agree, they are over obsessed with ward score, with vision score, right? All they look at is after a game is my vision score and everything, right? We've had it happen for sure, right? But I don't blame them, you know why? Because I just want to have 10 CS of it every game, and if I don't, I'm sad, you know? It's like I'm over obsessed over CS, when in reality vision score and CS doesn't matter. Because some games are more fast paced, you don't get the time to ward and farm that much. So focusing on those numbers, it's not important. It's actually how you actually play the game, not the situation, right? But yeah, sure, on average maybe it matters, but you know, sometimes it's not true. But in those games where it doesn't matter what CS is because the game is fast paced, The problem in seeing your CS is the fact that are gonna be hyper obsessed about you having bad CS, and are gonna focus on farming too much when you should be joining fights because the game is that fast paced, you know. So yeah, like showing your kills, death assists on the scoreboard, showing your CS, your vision score in game in the leaderboard is not good. You should not see it. I don't think it provides any useful information. Let's be honest. All right.
Is a deeply important statistic, being so prominent that it matters in what grade the game gives you after a match, yet the only way to see your vision score in game is to hover over your trinkets, something I'm willing to bet that you didn't know even if you've played League before. This is one of the most important statistics in the game, yet it's so diminished that most players don't even care, and low elo players often drop extremely low impact wards that have little to no effect, not understanding the detriment that it is for them and their team. So not only does the score...
No, like, this is not even like low elo exclusive. People don't really understand what wards are doing. Wards only help you have insurance. They sure, like, they kinda, let's say, drop a ward in the river. It's like, it's a way to see if the enemy jungler, you know, is there or not, for example, right? Or if somebody's there or not. But it's like, some people have habits of like, okay, I'm past the middle of the lane, I'm gonna drop a ward in the river now, right? But then they see the enemy mid laner and jungler top lane. It's like, why the hell are you even dropping a ward now? What's the point, right? And then what most people do, they drop a ward and they then never actually look at the map. So even if the enemy jungler shows, they don't even see them because, you know, right? So wards are the thing, like, wards are so useful, but they're not really used properly most of the time, right? Because there's so many things in the game, you know?
Scoreboard make flaming, something that is extremely common in League of Legends, even easier. It also actively diminishes an important aspect of the game. So far, I've been tackling things in order, but the rank system is a bit of a larger topic, so I'd like to address the systems put in place to encourage good behavior. Riot has said multiple times that they would like to improve the honor system to make it more rewarding for players, but they don't actually have the balls to offer players a free skin for their most played champion, or actually severely punish players for out-of-line behavior. They've
True, right? Because right now, when you get level Honor 5, right, Honor level 5, whatever, you have the max Honor, you get Honored every game, and so on. You're a good player. All you get is a token that you can choose either Medieval Twitch or like the Warwick skin. Or maybe if you have those already, a Chroma. And that's it. It's like, what the hell? And then if you lose your honor level because you're flaming and so you're toxic, all that happens is you just don't get key fragments anymore. Yeah, that's it, right? It's like, it's a lie. The honor system is kind of it's whatever. It doesn't matter, man. It's like, who cares, man? Whatever.
They fail repeatedly on both ends of the spectrum, and rather than genuinely try
you could replace it with, if you don't get banned, you get fragments, and then at the end of the split you get the Warwick skin or the Twitch skin, and then if you flame you get nothing, and that's it. You don't need the honor level. It's a lie. It's just a lie. It doesn't provide anything. It doesn't show anything.
Improve the community, they focus on other things, knowing that the problem has gotten so out of hand they would likely have to rebuild multiple systems from the ground up to try to get it under control. It is genuinely shameful how badly Riot mishandles and has mishandled their community in game to the point where it's considered a no-go zone for a large swath of gamers. I really think that Riot's main focus, aside from their terrible onboarding and tutorial that does not actually teach you how to play the game, should be attempting to improve the behavior of the community and creating an environment for growth and togetherness rather than the cesspit that League as a whole currently is. This is of course easier said than done, but with Riot's nearly bottomless pockets and with them trying to milk us for everything we're worth.
Ooh, the $500 Ari skin. Ooh, the $500 skin. This was very controversial.
We deserve this and more. As I mentioned previously,
Right, I mean, let's be honest, you know, Riot is a company, and what do companies want to do? They want to make money. That's why they exist. They don't care about you. They want to make money, you know, otherwise they wouldn't be a company, right? So it's kind of understandable. It's what it is, you know, it's what it is, right? But it's so sad to see, like, when companies don't give players free stuff for being good players, you know. That's a bit sad, because, you know, then they would lose money, right? But yeah, it's just how it is, you know, it is what it is.
Obviously, ranked is a larger topic, but I'll first start with a statement.
They've got to monetize the game somehow, because if you don't, the game doesn't exist anymore. Because let's be honest, League is completely free to play with zero pay to win. And not a lot of games can be free to play with no pay to win. There's not many. Right? So I appreciate Riot for that as well. That's why the $500 R skin, it doesn't bother me. You know, it's like, just who cares? I don't care, whatever. You know, it is what it is.
Solo queue is the worst decision Riot has ever made, bar none. Solo queue as a game mode has continuously shaped the course of League of Legends as a whole and damaged all of its individual parts, including community, game balance, role strength, and ranked integrity. Making claims like that is usually the type of thing to get you laughed out of any chat or website as a crazy person or a moron, but this is my video and I get the talking stick. So,
Fair.
how exactly has a game mode had such drastic ramifications on so much of the game in its entirety? Well, to show you, I'm going to try to...
Without solo queue, there is no League. Yeah. If League had no solo queue, the game would die. You know? Like, what's the percent? How many guys? What's the percentage? What percentage would you give League when it comes to like what percentage of players mainly play solo queue? I would say it's 90% at least, right? I'll give it at least 90%. They played League because of rank. It might be even be more. I don't know. But I feel like 90% is fair. You know, because then you have some ARAM players, but not that many. And then you have some game mode players like Swarm, especially now Swarm, I guess, then it makes the percentage lower because Swarm is now here, right? But yeah, I count ARAM as, you know, a game mode. It's not solo queue. I'm only talking about solo queue, right? Even flex queue, I'm not even including it. It's something else, right?
play a game of ranked.
Like 2/3 of players only play normals, really? I don't know. Like, I don't know about this. But in my mind, I just assume players just play League because of solo, you know? But maybe that's just because that's all I'm exposed to. I'm all exposed to solo queue, and when I look on the internet at other streamers, other content creators, they're all playing solo queue as well, right? Nobody talks about the players that are casual. So I don't know. Until we get the official numbers, I have no idea. I have no clue. I don't know. I could be completely wrong here. I don't know.
All right, stop. Issue number 1. This shit. What the fuck is this?
Actually, if you're a new player, this is weird. I have no idea what this is. What are those 3 gems there? What is this? What is this?
I have to pick a role that I'm not as good at as my main role and don't want to play, but if I don't pick anything in specific, or
Not the gems. Yeah, he's referring to like the roles, right?
or if my secondary happens to be jungle or bot lane, I'm almost never going to get my main role anyways. Why? Riot's stated reason is to decrease queue times, but I'm not particularly sure that's worth it when the cost is player frustration before even entering the game.
Yeah, I think this is a fair point, right? The addition of autofill. Because if you look at the above master queues, the queue times can be insanely large, insanely long. It's crazy how long they can be. They can even be an hour. It's insane. And in Challenger, they are like 20 minutes sometimes. It's crazy, right? But you gotta remember, like, that's like 0.1% of the community. You know, it's like you make 99.9% of the community suffer because 0.1% have long queues. You know? Because let's be honest, if you had an option, like this is what I think Riot should add. Have a check mark and say, I am willing to wait more in queue to not be autofilled. And boom! That would be cool, right? You know? Maybe that would be cool. So enable it only Master Plus, that might be another option, right? Because I feel like lower reloads being filled is bad. Because, guys, please tell me your division and your average queue time, right? Because I feel like, you know, if you're a gold player, maybe, your average queue time is like 30 seconds. So you could just, a lot of you guys for sure, if you waited 30 seconds in queue, would say, yeah, I'm gonna wait 2 minutes instead to not be autofilled. You know? Or put a timer after how long in queue you're willing to get filled. Another great solution, I agree. Diamond 1, 1 to 2 minutes. That's crazy. It's like nothing, right? Gold average rank queue is about 130 to 2 minutes. Okay. I guess it depends on the server and everything, right? But I don't think that's bad. I think that's fair enough, right? Because you can do so many things in queue. You can play another game, you can scroll TikTok, YouTube, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? So I think people would be willing to wait more in queue to just guarantee like they have a better quality game, right? Personally, autofill I don't think is that big of a deal. I'll show you why maybe. This is why I feel like this is why, I don't know why, but like whenever I get fill, for example, this is so weird. Look, I'm playing J4 and I have like 78% win rate. I play Tristana mid, I win as well. You know, only a few games. Maybe I got lucky, but it's like autofill kind of lets you experience other roles for sure. And when you remember back in the day, a lot of you probably don't remember because you weren't playing the game 10 years ago. There were no roles in the game. It's pick priority. You are the first in the lobby, you decide your role and your champion. And the last players most of the time would be a support. So 1 of 5 games you're forced to play support most of the time, right? So it's like, yeah, it used to be way worse back in the day, you know? So getting filled every now and then now is not even that bad compared to how it was in the past. So you can blame Riot all you want, but also, you know, they did improve the systems, right? They did improve the systems. Let's be honest, right? But it doesn't mean they can't improve them further. And that's what Riot needs to do to stay relevant. Just improve them further. Hold on, I got a phone call. I'm gonna take this. Okay, so are you guys still alive? Oh my god. I went for milk and I never came back, like my dad. Oh my god, so so basically we were supposed to have 2, like, what do you call them, like a coach or coach, I don't know how to pronounce it, and then like 2, you know, chairs, whatever it is, for the outside, for the outdoor area we have in the house. And when they called, they were just entering the city, and then when they arrived next to my street, they didn't get the right place right away, so I had to wait more for them to arrive. And then when they arrived, they had to open the car. It's like a truck with like a covering behind it or whatever, right? And when they checked inside for my package, it was legit in the bottom of it, in the hardest to access area, and it was there. And then when they finally got to it, they moved everything out of it, they couldn't get the box out, so they had to get the stuff outside the box, and then we had to carry it that way from outside the box. We had to open the box there and so on, right? And then I was like, okay, cool. I saw the coaches are there. The what do you call them? The legs were in another box. And then I checked the paper, right? It's like those, and then there was supposed to be like a shelf as well. I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna call my mom. There's supposed to be a shelf, yeah, okay. So we had to call those guys. I muted myself somehow, and then we called those guys back for that shelf, and they came back, and then we got a shelf, and everything is okay now. Oh my god, this was an experience. It took me like 20 minutes. It's crazy. Anyway, back on topic. Sorry, this was crazy. Anyway, oh Jesus Christ, it was funny. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, let's see. Let's go back.
And lower quality games in general. When somebody's autofilled, getting a role they don't play, that is a death sentence for that match. If you go through with the queue and play that game, you will not win unless that teammate is Magi Felix or Faker. So now that shorter queue time has just turned into somebody having to leave and eat a dodge timer, forcing them to spend a minimum of 5 minutes not playing the game because they didn't want to waste 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, about dodging here, very important. Yeah, people see this as like a lot of the times bad team comp, or you have the no that's in thing, right? A lot of people see that they are forced to dodge, and I think that's so bad, right? You should never be forced to dodge, right? And you don't have to, right? The game kind of makes it think that way, but you know, from experience, I got challenger by never dodging and by never surrendering, so you don't have to do it, right? You don't have to do it, you're not forced, but the game kind of forces you in a way to do it because you have the Nunu Inter in your team, right? That's also bad.
That's losing LP. Riot likes to act like this system creates better games for the players, lower queue times, and is a good thing for the game, and yet I can't find a single effect that is genuinely worth the cost. If I queue my main role and get something else, and neither I nor anyone else dodges, bare minimum I am going to spend 15 plus minutes doing something I do not want to do, and I won't be doing it well. My teammates won't enjoy having me on their team, and at the end of it all, not a single person on our team will be left thinking, thank God for that lower queue time. The only genuine reason I can see for keeping autofill in the game is if loser's queue is real. There is no reason in my mind other than intentionally trying to make players lose that could convince me, if I were Riot, to keep this system in place. In an environment that is supposed to be competitive, leaving somebody unable to perform to their fullest potential is an absolute joke. Imagine queuing for ranked in a shooter and the game forces you to pick 2 types of guns you want to use and tells you you'll only get to use one. Then imagine the feeling where after picking one of those options, you queue into a game and are handed a set of dual machine pistols instead of the AR or sniper that you chose because too many players are using those weapons. Now you're stuck.
That would suck. That would, yeah, you can't even choose the weapon. It would suck, yeah.
With a weapon you aren't good with and don't know how to use it.
Imagine you play League and you want to buy Kraken Slayer, but 3 other players bought Kraken Slayer in the lobby before you, so you can't buy it yourself. Unlucky, bro. You have to choose and swap your build out, and guess what? You got the runes for the specific build, and if you choose another build, the runes don't work that well anymore. It would suck.
Effectively, and if you decide you don't want to play with that, you're punished for leaving. There's no better description for this than abusive. This system forces you to make choices you don't want, punishes you for making those choices, and then punishes you again if you decide to leave. No wonder people talk about League like an ex that they keep going back to and warn you to stay away. Despite all of the bullshit.
Whenever a friend says they quit League, after a couple months maximum, they come back to the game anyway.
Shit I've just been put through, I still want to play a ranked match, so I hit the button to queue, and 3 players declining later, we're into an actual champion select. Issue number 2. Why is this order randomized? I understand the intention of not letting people know what champ is playing where, but certain lanes, namely top lane, have such bad matchups for any given champion in the pool that it genuinely does not make sense to not give the top laner the latest possible pick by default.
This video is 9 days ago. We can swap roles, by the way. You can swap them. You can swap pick order, and people do it consistently now. So I think this might be outdated.
Default. In the same vein, both supports and
or how does he mean default? I don't think by default. I mean, I guess I don't know. Yeah, it's not default. I don't think being default is important because you can swap. I don't think this is a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal.
ADCs, bar specific exceptions, do not have such bad matchups that they lose the game off a counter pick. I don't see why we aren't putting them earlier in the pick order by default. Mid and jungle or somewhat.
Yeah, I don't think this is a problem. Right? Because, yeah, exactly. Depending on meta, you know, things could change. Because sometimes maybe Ornn or Gwen is so overpowered, you want to blind her every single time, right?
But in between, both needing to avoid
Or
counter.
you have flex picks like Rel. That could be jungle or support, right? Sometimes you don't want to pick support first, but Rel jungle is whatever, right?
Picks on a bi-character basis. Rengar, for example, might
So I don't think default is needed. Yeah, I think it's good.
want to pick a bit later into an enemy comp to avoid them picking too much CC or tankiness, whereas an Ahri main would likely want to pick earlier to avoid losing their champ to the enemy mid due to her higher pick rate. This is generally a minor grievance. Players are pretty good at sorting out their own pick order, but nonetheless it's a needless point of friction. A fixed pick order wouldn't totally remove this friction, but it could help mitigate any sticklers losing a top laner of their game or screwing over an ADC trying to get the pick or ban champ before their opponent.
I guess he's talking about the situations where you know, like the ADC doesn't want to swap and they want to save it for last pick for some reason, even though the enemies picked ADC, right? It's like there's no real way to fix this. I think this is whatever. It's just it is what it is. I mean, I guess defaulting would be fine, but I don't know, man. I don't think this is a big deal.
Well, at least we're past that now. Unfortunately, though, because me and my team have been given a chance to go at each other's throats, the mid laner refused to give the first pick to our ADC, and the enemy insta-locked our ADC's champ. So now our ADC is tilted before we've even begun. At least we're now in the loading screen.
There's so many times. This is a big problem in the league. The game that didn't even start yet, and people are tilted already. That's bad.
Where nothing could serve to tilt people any further. Issue number 3. This is another minor issue, and most people have little to no reaction to something like this, but one of our teammates is a lower rank than us, something we can see by their ranked border.
I mean, being gold 1 or being platinum 4 there's no difference. Who cares, right? You are a GM or challenger. Unless you're rank 1 challenger, you know, a low challenger or a high GM, doesn't matter. It's the same shit. This is doesn't matter, right? But people don't perceive it that way, right? People don't perceive it that way. I guess this is more of a psychological thing or something.
And while this normally wouldn't elicit a reaction, our ADC, who was acting self-important earlier, happens to be the one out of place.
Right, so challenges, the Diamond 1 and Master 1 LP, that's more pain. That's because of, you know, if you play in the morning in Challenger queue, right? There's not enough Challenger players, so they have to feel like Diamond 1s and Masters. That's crazy, right? But that's special case, you know, 0.1% again. But for most of the time, it doesn't really matter.
I can only imagine how this will add to the tension that has already been building. As we enter the game, our mid laner instantly begins spouting off in chat, telling the ADC that they're too low elo to deserve first pick and they wouldn't even carry if they had it. Issue number 4. This is the first issue that isn't visually
I don't think they have any way to fix this. I don't think this... Like, there's only so much that Riot can do to fix some issues. You know, you can't fix everything because players will just misbehave. That's what it is.
evident, and this is one of the largest issues in all of League, in my opinion. Do you remember when I mentioned that feeling of self-importance shooters get?
Hide rank. But then if you hide rank, it's like you can show off your rank that you worked so hard for it, right? Because if if you're diamond finally, and you get put into a game where with like emeralds, you want to feel good about that you're a better player, right? Or like better player. It's the same MMR, so you're the same skill level. It's more of a psychological thing, right? And Riot kind of wants to promote that in a way, because then you want to keep that rank and keep playing, right? To be addicted, right? But then it's like in solo queue, if the MMR is the same, the ranks are kind of similar anyway. It's not like the other players are better or worse than you. It's similar skill level anyway, right? So you could hide it theoretically, right? And then have it in normal queue, for example, right? Yeah, I guess it makes sense to hide it, maybe. Yeah, I guess. But at the same time, I don't want my rank to be hidden. I'm proud of my rank. Why not show it, Like, I worked hard for a cool border. Why hide it, from other people? It's also one thing to consider.
Give you, where you can win alone, but your team loses together. League has that too, and not only does it have that, it amplifies that feeling tenfold. Modern League is a very snowball-heavy game. Leads can turn into more leads, which can turn into a win.
But a lot of people don't realize objective bounties are overpowered. It's insane. You can make a comeback like crazy. Because once you have objective bounties, it means like you are 5k gold behind. I think it's 5k. You can ace the enemies and get Baron and get a turret or two. It's like 5k already. Now you're even. It's insane. It's so crazy. But people don't really look at that. We are behind 5k, we're never winning this anyway. Just FF go next, right? This is the mentality right now, unfortunately.
While this isn't a problem fully exclusive to the modern game, League has not done itself any favors. Champions are designed to have the capacity to win the game all on their own, and they are balanced as such. If you lose...
No, you can't really win on their own, no.
And give me a lead, and I make no mistakes, unless your team has a lead to answer for me, I win that game. As you may have realized, this creates an extremely unhealthy mindset in the majority of the player base. Terms like 1v9 are often thrown around in guides.
Oh, look at this, throw so many 1v9s, yeah?
And popular content.
But in my opinion, you can never 1v9. I don't think it's possible anymore. If we are talking about fair game with similar MMR players, like in solo queue. 1v9 is not possible, really. I don't think it's possible, really. It's not Season 2, Season 3 anymore.
From moment one, players are conditioned by the game and everything around it to assume their teammates are unreliable and useless. In psychology, there's an idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you treat somebody in a particular way, it causes them to act that way. Teachers who would treat students as if they were going to fail and not give them the help they need often end up being the reason those students fail in the first place.
True, like, when it comes to mentality and like how the communities and if a game is toxic or not, it's all about the players and how they're being treated. And yeah, like if your teacher treats you badly or if your parents treat you badly, you're gonna behave badly. If you queue up for a lead game and people treat you badly, you're gonna start behaving badly as well. Maybe not 100%, but at least partially, right? Even I'm affected by it sometimes, even though I'm so positive. You know, sometimes it does happen. It is what it is, right? Maybe I snap. I don't perma-flame them, but maybe I see something bad about them sometimes. You know.
It should be relatively easy to see where I'm going with this. When players enter the game with the mindset that their team will fail and that they have to win alone, it can lead to an apprehension to provide assistance rather than focusing on attempting to create individual success. This very mindset is indeed, in part, self-causal, in the same way those with a poor mindset for life often only make their life poorer, whereas a positive mindset in the same spot could improve things drastically.
For sure.
So, in effect, League not only guides players towards a negative mindset, but it also guides them to be actively hostile towards other players and the idea of working together, as it is not as assured a route to victory as simply winning on one's own. This is already worse than other games. Riot has created an environment that strongly discourages players from acting as a team in their team-based game, a core failing of game design. But it...
I feel like there's things that Riot can fix, and then things that Riot can never fix, and the players are the issue, right? But at the same time, let's talk about an inting Nuno, right? If Nuno ints, takes Ghost and Cleanse, runs it down mid non-stop, then it's Riot's responsibility to like permaban, you know? They have to permaban, right? But then when it comes to some of those systems where players are toxic because maybe something happens, maybe the scoreboard happens, it's like, yeah, they could fix some issues and maybe hide the scoreboard, like kill devs. You could hide them and so on. You could hide the borders in loading screen, right? But it's like they don't really have to do that, and they wouldn't have to do that if players behave better, right? But at the same time, players are not gonna behave better. You don't change people. You can't really change people, right? So in a way, I think he's got a fair point. Whereas Riot or like the companies that design a game is their responsibility to design it better to make people less toxic in a way, right? This kind of how it is. But at the same time, when it comes to a competitive game, humans will be humans and there will be toxic people anyway, right? So it's like a balance, you know. It's like you cannot fix everything, you cannot please everyone. It is what it is. We don't live in a perfect world, especially when humans are involved. Because when it comes to a single player, you could have a perfect single player game. You could have a perfect game. That's amazing, right? I'll give you an example. If I open my Steam here, right? With my Steam, this game called Horizon, right? Zero Dawn, for whatever, right? In my opinion, this is a perfect game. It's perfect. They don't need to do anything. I like it. It's perfect. But League, they could do many better things in my opinion, right? But that's how a competitive online game works, right? When there's human interaction involved, it cannot be perfect.
Gets even worse. All of these issues stem from the same root problem. Riot does not understand the game they have created, and while I wish I could say this has changed, at no point throughout League's history has Riot proven that they truly understand the importance of team play. Where Siege has nerfed their metagame into the ground, it's no secret that League has buffed themselves far too high, walking a tightrope thousands of feet in the air that they have fallen off of repeatedly, and yet they continue to rise higher rather than attempting to climb back down. Riot did not dig themselves a hole. They built themselves a high dive in the desert, and now, rather than fix anything, they are looking for mirages to jump into. I think it's now
It's got funny analogies.
time that I address the problem child of League of Legends.
Okay.
The nebulous role that is both hated by the player base for being overpowered and absolutely unable to win entirely solo. A role that is regularly addressed as lacking skill, yet the majority of the player base refuses to touch it. The role that receives the most flame in the game and almost the least praise, only losing to the unsung heroes of the game that are good supports. The role described by its players as babysitting 4 toddlers in a room full of forks and power outlets. The jungle. Junglers and the role itself are both in a weird place in the metagame, having a role that is, in fairness, overtuned, but also needs to be that strong to maintain a player base. A role that has been nerfed, buffed, and shoved around more than anything else, except maybe...
And now jungle, you play jungle, you have Pokeballs, you have a pet. This role has been insane. It went through so many changes. The jungle role, in my opinion, has been changed the most in the game. And the second one was like support, and then mid top ADC, they have whatever, they don't change that much, you know. Damn. Right? And why is that? Well, because when it comes to gold generation, top, mid, and ADC, right? They farm. They have a lane each to farm. That's how they get their gold. But junglers and supports, right? They're different. They're way different. Let's say jungler, yeah, but the junglers, you know, they have camps to farm, right? They could get invaded and they could lose those camps, you know? So it's like they don't have, it's not like enemies can kill their own minions, right? It's, imagine if enemies could steal your jungle, then enemies could kill their minions. It's the same thing, right? So you lose resources. You need to have like a catch-up mechanic, maybe like junglers have XP catch-up mechanic, for example, right? Or how supports never farm. So you need to have a way to generate income, and the support item changes constantly, right?
Maybe the champion, who is known for being reworked. Jungle as a role is deemed important enough to be given a large amount of attention, but not enough attention.
Man, like if you ever go to like Rise's subreddit, those guys are insane. Some of those people need to be locked up. It's crazy. Don't go there. They're mentally boomed after all the changes. Poor guys. They just want to play a champion, you know?
Attention to realize that the problems it faces do not reside within the role itself. Or perhaps the developers know the problems that plague the role, but do not have the ability or the go-ahead to fix it. Either way, these are problems that have gone unaddressed for far too long, to the point where this one role is now defining the layout of the entire map. The problem with jungle in a solo queue context is that when the role is fairly balanced, jungle cannot win the game on its own. The jungler...
But no role can win the game by its own. I mean, let's be honest, right? There are ways to transition or lead to other lanes and try to have more impact on the game, but there's no way you can win by yourself. It's not gonna happen. You do need your teammates to help you, right? Let's say you split push and you end the game because you split like crazy. Well, that was only possible because teammates were playing on the same tempo as you, holding the enemies busy at Baron. Because if the enemies were not busy at Baron, they would have killed you, right? So you cannot win by yourself. It's not possible. Allies will always assist you in winning, right? You cannot 1v9. Sure, you could like 4v6, like 3v7, but you can never 1v9. You need your allies to do something.
needs at least one other player who they can excel.
Sorry that I'm pausing so much, but I really like the fact that you cannot 1v9 because this is supposed to be a team game. And people need to understand it's a team game. You need to rely on your teammates and treat them nicely. And the sooner you understand that, the nicer you're gonna get as a person, as a player, and the faster you're gonna climb. And people don't get it. Why is it so hard to not flame people for 30 minutes in a game? Like, I don't understand. Just tolerate a person is not hard, you know?
Accelerate or snowball off of to win a game of League of Legends. This doesn't necessarily create an unbalanced or underpowered role. The chances of having at least one good player on your team is higher than not, but this cannot eliminate the fact that putting the game into someone else's hands feels bad. In the same vein, where everywhere this decision is disincentivized, here it is required, a necessary path to victory. In a game mode where everyone else is encouraged not to cooperate and given the room to win on their own, the jungler is left picking up scraps. These scraps may be able to come together to be more than the whole, but they still feel like scraps nonetheless. Support can suffer much the same fate, but still has more direct control over their own and their teammates' games. A good support is noticed, a great one, however, is not. Support is a role made up of the small things, a conscious method to create a janitor of sorts, somebody to make sure everything is clean and ready when the fighting goes down. The jungler is a fish out of water in solo queue, and Riot's solution is to raise the water level and let everyone else drown. So
I don't know. Maybe, right? You could argue that jungler is the most impactful role at the end of the day, right? Because in my opinion as well, he's kind of saying correct things. Like jungle is the most impactful, I would say, and then is the support, right? And I think that's normal because of reasons we talked previously. Gold generation. They're not bound to waves like the other three roles are. They're not bound to income and lanes like the other roles are, you know? They can do other things, they can move more freely around the map. And if you move around the map, you have impact. If you farm bot, you have less impact. You know? That's how it goes.
So, Riot has created a system that disincentivizes team play, makes it as easy as possible to shift blame onto others, creates poorer match quality, ruining players' patience, and breaks one of the 5 roles in the game. So what legendary upside is there that causes Riot to keep this system in place? Well, in general, it's used as a metric to prove a player's individual skill. If I hit X rank, that means I'm good enough. Pro players are required to get a certain rank within solo queue to be allowed to participate in the season, and it's generally regarded as a good metric for skill and individual talent.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like, for example, solo queue rank is different than like flex rank, or like your skills in solo queue. Well, yeah, they might be useful if you want to play in competitive or flex queue at a high level, but that's not everything, right? But it is like if you have a solo queue player that's GM, 99% of the time they will play better in pro play than a player that's diamond. Like, let's be honest, right? They're gonna be better, so of course they look at the solo queue rank. Let's be honest, because solo queue rank shows what you are capable of, because you can re-queue up with other people, right? And maybe duo queue, but even then, whatever, right?
One can't help but wonder if the vast amount of trade-offs taken for a system like this are really worth it, if creating an environment where players are pushed to dehumanize and hate each other for the sake of competition is really a good idea. And in the same breath, I can't help but wonder if these downsides are really necessary. People speak of dynamic queue as if it brought the plague, but compared to the current scenario, creating more team cohesion seems like a venerable alternative. There are downsides, sure. Dynamic queue's previous implementation basically all but devalued ranked rather than...
Wasn't like dynamic queue, I think, like the flex queue we have today, right? I remember that time. You could queue up with however many people you want, and that's like solo queue. They made solo queue be flex queue. It caused many problems, like boosting and so on. So I guess that's why they moved it to flex queue and kept solo queue as a thing, which kind of makes sense.
Encouraging team play, so simply reverting to that system would hardly be enough, nor would a band-aid fix like adding voice chat bring about the type of truly cohesive gameplay I would want to see from a...
Yeah, I kind of wish we had voice chat, I don't know, right? On one hand, like whenever I talk, let's say I'm streaming, right? Or I'm playing with some friends, right? Because I'm talking, I'm playing worse, right? But the ability to communicate will make the game itself, or like will make us play better as a team. Even though individually I'm playing worse, if I'm able to communicate as a team, we play better, which is better than me playing better, it sounds weird, but yeah, that's kind of how it is.
A good ranked system. Instead, this problem has no easy path. It's a problem not only of systems, but of culture. If Riot does manage to create a proper ranked system that manages to encapsulate the feeling of team versus team gameplay, there's no guarantee and even a precedent against players reacting well to the changes. The new system...
No matter what you do, no matter what change you implement, there will always be people that complain. Look at Vanguard. Vanguard got introduced, right? In my opinion, it's great. I played, before Vanguard was a thing, I had a scripter like 1 in 10 games. Like I had an enemy had a scripter, right? And guess what? Scripters were the ADC player most of the time. And me as an ADC player, when there's a scripter in game, the scripter is in the enemy team, not in my team, because I'm the ADC. So I'm at a huge disadvantage. But after Vanguard, yeah, the game is nicer to play for me, But then you have many people with Vanguard issues. We had Vanguard issues, but that also influenced me, affected me, and we just couldn't play the game because of it, right? And that's how it's gonna go. It is what it is, right? And also with the collection of information and so on, that's another topic, but yeah, there's ups and downs to every new feature, and you cannot please everyone. I guess you gotta please the majority. That's the best you can do, right? Let's be honest.
System could be the best.
Because let's talk about another. Sorry, it was again so much. Let's say we add something that you could argue everybody likes. Everybody get 10,000 RP. Everyone gets 10,000 RP. We can kind of all of us agree it's a good thing for us. It's great. It's such a good thing that they give us 10,000 free RP. It's insane, right? It's crazy. But then you would have the whales of this game that spend a lot of money for RP, for customization and everything, to collect everything. They would not be happy, because then the money they spent on the game would mean less, right? So even if they add a crazy good feature for the majority of players, there will still be a majority that they don't like it, right? Of course.
ever made, but if nobody plays it, it's still a failure. Not only a complete overhaul of the system, but also likely rebalancing would be needed on many champions. Champions that do well when exploiting the coordination and informational gaps that exist only in solo queue would likely find themselves much weaker after the change in environment. But buffing these characters haphazardly would too cause problems. A character designed to snowball made too strong becomes a win button. The developers would have to walk a tightrope, and we know.
We're talking about pick or ban champions. Pick or ban champions, right? I wish Riot, one thing they could do right away, in my opinion, they could make more micro patches more often, right? You know, ADCs are a problem right now. We have like 4 or 5 ADCs every single game. They're a big problem. Why wait another week for them to implement the Kraken Slayer nerf? Why not do it now? Why wait another week? You have to change the number. Make Kraken damage 80% effective for range champions. That's it. That's all you have to do, right? And that way you don't play in a worse version of the game for another week, right? You know, just an idea.
Know their track record with those. So, in the end, while I think this is something that the game desperately needs, and I think that games in general could benefit from a change in mindset towards solo play and solo players, I also understand that it is unlikely for a company like Riot to undertake such an expansive project that isn't sure to generate the results they're looking for. But I still look on and wonder how much longer that cracked foundation they're building on top of will last.
Fair point. Right, so major reforms gonna have to happen in League for it to be able to continue to be online for like 10 more years from now on, right? We just need some changes, you know? But honestly, if you look back 5 years, the game is much better than 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, the game was much better than 10 years ago. And in my opinion, they keep improving the game. The game never became worse, right? So I think that's really, really solid. You know, it's pretty good. Okay. Oh my god, Nasipal, thank you for the prime, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll do this. Right. This guy got 400k views on the video, but I'll still share the link to the video. Give it a like, he deserves it. This is great content. I don't really do React content that often, but I really enjoyed watching this, and I thought about doing this because I knew I would have to be AFK for a few minutes, so I didn't want to queue up for a league game. But yeah, I think he does. I agree with a lot of the things he said, but you know, there are some things outside of Riot's control anyway, so you cannot make the game perfect, and the game will never be perfect. Some things will just still be not ideal in League, because that's how competitive games work. That's what happens when you have human interaction in the game, right? That's how it goes. Yeah, good video.